Gerwig's Barbie movie is a cultural force to be reckoned with, and there have been tweets and videos and speculations aplenty, but this particular tidbit has gripped Barbie fans and haters far and wide. Apparently, writer Diablo Cody was approached with the idea for Barbie when it was still in development, and she eventually turned it down in 2018 because at the time, they wanted a girl boss feminist twist on Barbie, and she couldn't figure it out because that's not what Barbie is. That sentiment has inspired Barbie fans to argue for her inherent feminism, bringing up her jobs and careers and PhDs in her defense, and to really prepare for what some are saying is the movie event of the summer, sorry Oppenheimer, we must know our history. So, I present to you the oral history of Barbie. I'm gonna walk you through Barbie's birth, Barbie's jobs, Barbie's careers, Barbie's many portrayals, Barbie's most significant eras, if you will, and all the way from the first doll in 1959 to the current day in Greta Gerwig's version of Barbie in 2023. Ready? Class is in session. All right, all the way back in the dawn of time, aka March 1959, the very first original Barbie was born, aka Barbara Millicent Roberts. The very first Barbie debuted at the Toy Fair in New York City, and this iconic look was recreated by Margot Robbie in the current day. We love an iconic queen. Now, the origin story of Barbie is disputed, but this might be the most popular version, in which Ruth Handler, who is the co-creator of Mattel, the company that produces Barbies, with her husband, Elliot Handler, saw her daughter playing with baby dolls, and those were the only dolls available on the market, and that inspired her to create Barbie as a way for her daughter to be able to imagine herself inspired to be all of these different versions of what a woman could be rather than just a mother. And her daughter's name was, guess, Barbara, which is, of course, what Barbie is short for. Aww. As for the very first pop culture portrayal and public consensus of Barbie, she was an instant figure of controversy because the toy giants at the time, the toy giants of the industry, were convinced that no one would want to play with a doll with breasts. The scandal! The year that Barbie debuted, she also starred in her very first commercial. The commercial encouraged little girls to believe that they could be Barbie too, which is the very beginning of an illustrious career. How are we gonna put this? All right, down here. From 1959 to 1960, 300,000 Barbies were sold, and Barbie's overall image stayed pretty much the same that first year because you gotta build up some brand recognition, but she did get an expanded wardrobe and accessories, which we love. And then in 1962, Barbie got a makeover, a boyfriend, and a house. Introducing the one, the only, Ken. Yes, indeed, Ryan Gosling's ancestor was born just 2 short years after Barbie. He came into the world as both a blonde and a brunette. His job was just to be Barbie's boyfriend, and, of course, to beach.
Because actually my job, it's just beach.
But most importantly, Barbie became a homeowner. Yeah, that's right, in 1962, before women actually had the ability to open their own bank accounts in real life, Barbie got her first dream house. Then in 1963, Barbie got a bestie named Midge, and then in 1964, she got a little sister named Skipper, and in that same year, Midge got a boyfriend named Alan, who mostly gets forgotten about, but in the current day, he is played by Michael Cera. Now, all of these Barbie-adjacent characters are important because they actually show how Barbie herself was being portrayed at the time. At Barbie's debut, she was immediately criticized for being way too sexual, which is quite curious because as soon as she was successful, audiences started demanding that she have a boyfriend, which paved the way for Ken. And yet the promiscuity complaints continued, which prompted Mattel to make both Midge and Skipper. Midge was made with a full freckled face in comparison to Barbie's slanted eyes and chiseled bone structure, and Skipper came as Mattel was fielding requests for Barbie actually to have babies and be pregnant. So instead, they gave her a sister so she could remain that youthful glow. Whew! Okay, now that we've got the main cast sorted, I'm gonna run you through some careers that Barbie had during this time, and then we're gonna zoom ahead. 1959, Barbie's first ever job was a teenage fashion model. 1960, fashion designer. 1961, flight attendant, registered nurse, and a ballerina. 1962, tennis player. 1963, college graduate and career girl. In 1967, Mattel made its first black doll with colored Francie. She was technically Barbie's cousin, but she didn't have any African-American features, so Mattel quickly followed her up with Christy, another friend for Barbie, in 1968, the same year in America that the Civil Rights Act was passed. Woohoo! Representation! But Take note, Francie and Christy were not technically Barbie dolls themselves. It would be many years before Mattel made actual black Barbies. Now that largely takes us to the end of what I call Barbie's debut era, and I know what you're thinking. Girl, it just took you so long to get through the first 10 years. But lucky for you and me and the length of this video, nothing really happens in the 70s, so we're gonna zoom right through what I'm calling Barbie's development era. In the 1970s, we had Malibu Barbie, Surgeon Barbie, Olympic sports Barbies in various forms, equestrian Barbie, and actor Barbie. You know, I kind of think Barbie gets more than 24 hours in her day. In 1976, Barbie was literally put in America's bicentennial time capsule, but don't think the 70s were all goo goo gaga for Barbie, because it's also the decade where criticism started stirring about Barbie's materialism and unrealistic body standards. This brings us to the 1980s, aka the true girl boss Barbie era. In 1980, Mattel introduced the first non-white dolls to actually be named Barbie. The first black Barbie sported an afro and a red dress, and her box read, "She's black, she's beautiful, she's dynamite." The designer Kitty Perkins specifically wanted black Barbie to be the opposite of traditional Barbie and reflect black culture. At the same time, Mattel also launched the first Hispanic Barbie, who had long dark hair and darker skin and wore a traditional red skirt and white top. Her box read, "She's a Barbie doll just for you." 1980 was also the year that the first dolls of what would later become the Dolls of the World collection came out. Unfortunately, they did follow up 1980 with 1981's Oriental doll, which was apparently supposed to be from Hong Kong, but at the time probably meant to just represent a vaguely Asian doll, which is not great. A rapid fire of all the dolls of the world that continue coming out in the 1980s include Scottish Barbie, Eskimo Barbie, India Barbie, Spanish Barbie, Swedish Barbie, Irish Barbie, Swiss Barbie, Japanese Barbie, Greek Barbie, Peruvian Barbie, German Barbie, Icelandic Barbie, Canadian Barbie, Korean Barbie, Mexican Barbie, and Russian Barbie. Okay. Clearly, Barbie had already had many careers leading up to this era, but the women can have it all attitude of the 1980s permeated to the way that Barbie marketed herself. Mattel launched the We Girls Can Do Anything campaign in 1985, which is kind of the official beginning of why people so vehemently argue that Barbie is a feminist. There was this idea that Barbie didn't exist to just look cute and encourage girls to look a certain way, but to actually encourage girls to dream big and be just like Barbie. Barbie's jobs in the 1980s, by the way, expanded to include McDonald's cashier, makeup department worker, fashion department worker, aerobics instructor, business executive, veterinarian, travel agent, crib shop worker, game show host, ice cream cart owner, maid, ice cream parlor worker, pianist, pilot, United States Army officer, and UNICEF ambassador. Enter the 1990s, where Barbie is still being a girl boss and becoming President Barbie for the first time, because if you know your Barbie lore, Barbie has ran for president every single election cycle since 1992. But while Barbie was busy being a girl boss, the 90s also brought a landmark study that anchored the public's perception of her as a cultural figure in some pretty damning science. In 1994, a Finnish study found that if Barbie was a real girl with her current proportions, she wouldn't have enough fat on her body to menstruate. This did lead to a slight Barbie remodel in 1997 with smaller breasts and a wider waist. However, this did also feature slimmer hips, which had a lot of people convinced that Mattel didn't really want to more positively affect girls' body image as much as it just wanted to reflect the heroin chic aesthetic of the 1990s. This brings us to the 2000s, which I am thrilled to announce as the Barbie Cinematic Universe era. At the turn of the century, we are experiencing a home video boom, and our girl Barbie capitalizes on this. I would argue that Barbie's entrance into the cinematic universe of the 2000s is what actually cements her in pop culture outside of just the doll universe, which primarily existed for girls who imagined themselves in her world, because in the cinematic universe, she got a personality. Or should I say, several personalities? In 2001, Mattel's entertainment sector gave us the iconic Barbie and the Nutcracker, and that launched us into the golden era of getting a Barbie animated movie every single year after that. These include Barbie Swan Lake, Barbie's Princess of the Popper, Barbie Fairytopia, Barbie and the Magic of Pegasus, Barbie Fairytopia Mermaidia, Barbie and the 12 Dancing Princesses, Barbie Fairytopia Magic of the Rainbow, Barbie as the Island Princess, Barbie Mariposa, Barbie and the Diamond Castle, Barbie and the Christmas Carol, Barbie Presents Thumbelina, and Barbie and the Three Musketeers. Personally, I'm an OG Barbie as Rapunzel fan, and also Barbie Mariposa, because painting her way out of Rapunzel's tower was an artistic slay, and also because Bibble! Who doesn't love Bibble? Come on. Those were just the Barbie films released in the 2000s, and even more continue to come out straight to video in the 2010s. And these movies made a shit ton of money for Mattel, because with every movie, they could also produce specialty Barbies alongside each of the films, which saved their bottom line in 2006. All right, amidst all of these animated Barbie movies came Barbie's biggest competition ever in 2001, aka the Bratz dolls. The girls with a passion for fashion, Yasmin, Chloe, Jade, and Sasha, were different from Barbie in all of the ways that culturally mattered most, aka they were refreshingly diverse. Because try as Mattel might with their Dolls of the World and introducing the first black Barbies, they could never let go of their traditional blonde Barbie because that was the brand. Amidst this absolutely insane decade for Barbie began the very smallest whisperings of what brought us all here today. In 2009, a live-action Barbie film was announced by Universal Pictures, but production wouldn't begin for quite some time. Ah, yes, the 2010s, Barbie's influencer era. As Mattel ramped up their commitment to Barbie entertainment, the company learned how to adjust to the digital landscape. Alongside releasing another dozen or so movies, Barbie also became an influencer in 2014 with the launch of @BarbieStyle on Instagram. Barbie continued expanding her digital footprint with the launch of a vlog YouTube series in 2015, where she actually discusses topics like depression, bullying, and health benefits of meditation, and also how girls have a habit of apologizing when they're not really at fault at all. And in 2016, in finally catching up with the times, Mattel released the line of Barbies specifically with Barbie diversity. Curvy Barbies, petite Barbies, and tall Barbies. Now, while all this is going on in Barbie Land, the live-action Barbie movie is going through a tumultuous time. It goes from Universal Pictures to Sony Pictures in 2014 to Warner Brothers in 2018. It also goes from casting Amy Schumer as its leading lady to a brief stint with Anne Hathaway to landing on our current Golden Girl, Margot Robbie. It then goes from writer to director to writer to director, which actually catches up to the exact point where I started the video. In 2014, when writer Diablo Cody was attached to the Barbie project, think of the atmosphere of feminism that we were in. Think of the anti-feminine sentiment that was central to being a feminist. Think of the actual way that Mattel was marketing Barbie as a careful, thoughtful internet citizen talking about mental health. Think about the decades of body criticism that Barbie had gotten up to this point. That's the context that puts Diablo Cody's quote into a clearer vision. Of the public perception of Barbie and feminism, Cody said this: "When I was first hired for this, I don't think the culture had embraced the femme or the bimbo as valid feminist archetypes yet. If you look up Barbie on TikTok, you'll find the wonderful subculture that celebrates the feminine. But in 2014, taking the skinny blonde white doll and making her into a heroine was a tall order. That idea of an anti-Barbie made a lot of sense given the feminist rhetoric of 10 years ago. I didn't really have the freedom then to write something that was faithful to the iconography. They wanted a girl boss feminist twist on Barbie, and I couldn't figure it out because that's not what Barbie is." Diablo Cody was never saying that she didn't think Barbie could be a feminist. I think we've shown throughout history that in her own way, Barbie has always been a feminist, if obviously never a perfect version of one, but Barbie has also always been a product of her own time. And when Diablo Cody was tasked with the Barbie movie, the world wasn't ready for a Barbie who could be both feminine and powerful, both a bimbo and an existentialist, both a blonde and not blonde. And now we've caught up with the 2020s, where we are so clearly in the Greta Gerwig era.
I don't have anything big planned, just a giant blowout party with all the Barbies and planned choreography and a bespoke song. You should stop by.
So cool.
And that, my friends, includes our seminar on the history of Barbie. Obviously, it was not inclusive of every single doll ever made or every single point in Barbie's history, because that would have taken me 16 years of research and 2 more videos. I hope you enjoyed my deep dive on a cultural icon, and please feel free to rate me on ratemyprofessor.com. Please do not actually do that, because I'm not literally a professor of any kind, and I'll see you out there in your best Barbie pink.